Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk, and I'm your host, Nathan, or Old Man Nate. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to check my volume and stuff. Send a comment. I see somebody's online. Send a comment. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Oh, they already logged off. Hey, I see somebody logged in. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Put a thumbs up or comment in the comment box if you can hear me okay. If not, I'm going to restart this. Hey, there's somebody else again. All right. Hey, Jess, how you doing? Thanks for logging in today. Appreciate you. Appreciate you dialing in. So, again, welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. This is your host, Old Man Nate, and want to give a shout out first of all, like I always do, to HXC Gaming. Especially if you're in Oklahoma City area, um, look up Jump. He was on the other day. Check out the last show he was on, and give a shout out to him if you're needing some gaming stuff, whether it be consoles, games, supplies, whatever you need. He can hook you up. All right, he can take care of you. Also, want to give a shout out to A and K Engravers for making this special, awesome tumbler for me. If you're needing tumblers made, if you want an old man sports talk tumbler, or if you want your own tumbler made, get hook up with A and K Engravers. They're on Facebook. I don't know if they have anything else, but you can find them on Facebook. All right. So today we're going to talk about college football coaches that have changed the game of football. I'm going to start off with a guy by the name of Deion Sanders. I think right now he is the hottest coach when it not necessarily coaching wise, but when it comes to players want to play for. He's got we talk about NIL, he's got the name, image, and likeness just all around him. You don't even have to be getting paid and you want to be around this guy. You can collect a paycheck just by being around him. He has a TV camera following him around all the time. And the players that make the cut, they get paid. So um, he's the perfect marketer when it comes to football. I think we can still question a little bit about how good his coaching ability is. I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm not saying that at all. He's an excellent recruiter, though. He's an excellent marketer for the game of football, his schools, his athletes. He's at the very least, he's able to put money in their pockets. And this type of like Jess said, this day and age of the athletes, they want some money in their pocket. So what he has done, he went to Jacksonville State, or not Jacksonville, Jackson State first, and now he's at Colorado. And Colorado this year was one of the worst teams in college football. And it'd be interesting. I think there'll be a quick turnaround there, just simply because, like I said, players want to go play for him. He already had at least two players I know of that are leaving Jackson State to go play in Colorado. And there's probably more than that. There's just the two main ones, that high profile ones, I should say. His son, of course, and then the Hunter kid that was the number one recruit in the country in 2021 and committed originally to Florida State, which is, by the way, which is where Deion Sanders went to school at. and then he flips him. And on signing day, he he surprises everyone and signs with Jackson State. So he's gonna get. I mean, like there was a kid, and I'm not gonna say what's if I think this what's gonna happen, but there was a number one defensive back in the country committed to Miami, and on signing day, he elected not to sign, and that was simply because Deion Sanders gave him a phone call the night before, and he hadn't even talked to Colorado. He hadn't even talked to Deion Sanders, but one phone call right before signing day at least made this kid have a second thought, or I'm not even gonna say second thought, made him stop what he was going to do and reevaluate the situation. Now, will he end up at Colorado? I don't know. I actually watched the kid play yesterday in one of those. I think it was called All American game for high school kids, and he's a corner and he did really good. Almost had a pick six, dropped the ball, but made a perfect play on it. But so he's pretty good. He's committed to Miami. We'll see if he stays with that commitment or if he ends up flipping over to Colorado or somebody else. Um, but he has definitely changed how coaches are going to have to recruit. Now, I'm not going to say it. Obviously, you're not going to have all these coaches walk around like Cameron, like Deion Sanders does, but they're going to have somebody with some flair. It Something has gotta make him stick out. Now, Deion Sanders, obviously, I don't know how many Pro Bowls he made, but he's a Pro Bowler, he's a Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer. He's, was in the Pro Bowl several years, played college ball, really was even cocky, so cocky. Yeah, Ed Reed got a coaching job as well. Um, I'm not even sure what I do remember last week he did get one. I don't remember the school he got, but yeah, Deion Sanders was so freaking cocky at the combine. All he did was run his 40 one time, and he ran out the back of the tunnel straight to his ride and head to the airport. He was done. He didn't need to talk to nobody. He didn't need to do no bench presses or anything else. All he needed to do was run that 40, and he knew he was good. Yeah, Bethune-Cookman. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, Bethune-Cookman's who Ed Reed's going to be head coach next year. Actually, he's already the head coach. That's who he'll be. When the game kick off next year, that's who he'll be head coach. Head coach at Bethune-Cookman. But yeah, Deion has changed it. His like Jess said, his charisma, his cockiness, his attitude, his positive positive attitude. Um, you know, he's changed the game. Eh, he's not. Nick Saban's the old fashioned type. Seems like he's always grouchy when he's not really grouchy, but he seems like he is. That's not Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders ain't grouchy. He's gonna be blunt and straight to the point though, and which I like. I like that a lot about him. And I'd be interested what he does in Colorado. Jess predicts him to win 8 games. Really, honestly, I'm not gonna make no predictions right this second because if you have seen the video, his very first video when he got to Colorado, he basically told that locker room that um you better enter the transfer portal. He's bringing in his own players. Now, obviously, not all those kids are going to go up and enter the transfer portal, but there was some. I know there was some. In fact, the quarterback did because he knew he wasn't going to play no more because Deion brought his son with him. But, um, I don't know how much talent is on Colorado's roster. They won one game, and that was against California. I don't know how much talent's on that roster. They're going to bring in some, but they can't bring in a whole new roster. That's the thing. and I don't know if he'll bring in enough this season to make that big of a change. And the Pac-12 is not weak, not as weak as it was. Okay, about 5 years ago, it was pretty weak. Now it's not so much so weak, and I think every quarterback for the Pac-12 came back. All their top quarterbacks, um, Pelix at Washington, uh, Oregon's quarterback Nix is back. Obviously, Caleb Williams is back at USC. Um, eh, Utah, Utah's quarterback. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if has another year or not. So that may be the only one losing. But UCLA, I think they did lose UCLA's quarterback. I think his eligibility is up. So that may be the only one as far as the top quarterbacks go in the conference. And so Utah still going to be good. I mean, I think they'll, even if they do lose their quarterback, I do think that they'll still be the best team in the Pac-12. But the other teams will be competing as well. Oregon, Washington, and USC will be up there too. So that's 4 teams right there that's going to be competing. Of course, I don't know if the schedules came out yet for the Pac-12, so I don't know how good of a schedule or how competitive, how many of those teams Colorado have to play. But if they have to play all 4 of those teams, that's 4 losses probably right there. And I don't know what their non-conference is like. If they play TCU again like they did this year, that's a loss. So Utah did get drugged by Penn State, but their quarterback got hurt too. And 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 uh but Utah was still good. It still was the best team in the conference last year. So um I don't now, Jess, let's not talk about the third best team in the Big Ten because we've seen what the other 2 teams did on Saturday night. So let's not go too far there, okay? Um, but yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm not saying right now whether how many games Colorado and Dion will win in the first year, but I definitely think he's going to turn them around. Probably go to, or if they're not bowl eligible this year, they will be bowl eligible next year. Okay, meaning if they don't win 6 games in this year, then they'll win 6 next year for sure, and probably up there closer to that 8, 9, 10 win range. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Hen. Hen, welcome to the Mr. Hen. Welcome to the show. And you're right. He is going to be rebuilding that team. So it would be tough. Like I said, it's going to be really tough for him to just automatically win 8 games. Without me seeing the schedule, I can't make that prediction right now. So the next coach I want to talk about is a coach that I, I well this both actually I can run these in together. Deion Sanders and this next coach I'm going to talk about, they're both doing something, and I know all the teams do this, but they do it more, and they're going to have to do it more, or Deion's going to have to do it more this year. And this other coach I'm going to mention did it a lot last year, and that's really hit the transfer portal. Go in there and get guys that got some playing time already. Some of them, 5th-year seniors. Some of them uh, got just weren't happy with their playing time, or some of them just want to come play for Coach Prime or this other coach I'm going to mention here in just a second. But the transfer portal has changed the game completely on teams, how quickly they can rebuild. Whereas just a couple years ago is all high school related and junior college related. Now with the transfer portal, you can go in and you can change your whole team in 1 year. Look at TCU. I don't know how many transfer portal kids they got. Now they did get a new head coach, but I don't think. Well, The head coach did change some because he brought in a different offensive philosophy, but defensive wise didn't change much. TCU has been good at defense for years, so that really didn't change much. But the transfer portal definitely changed for TCU. Jess is saying it changed for Michigan too. I don't know enough about Michigan to know how much it impacted them, but I will say it was really surprising that they was able to go to the regular season undefeated with everything they did lose, especially on the defensive end last year. So, but you know, it, they fell a little bit short of their expectations, or not everybody's expectations this year, and so everybody fell short of their expectations, except for one team. We'll find out who that team's going to be, and that's either going to be TCU or Georgia. Well, I don't. So, Mr. Hand saying what's going to mess up Coach Prime is the O line because all the players in the portal are specialists or specialties or athletes. I don't know if that's 100% true. There definitely is a lot of athletes out there, but there's some offensive line players in there too. They're basically all positions because there's a lot of players that are just either not happy with their playing time, they're not happy with the um, the way the team is going. Obviously every player goes to a team that wants to win, and they get there and just he doesn't they don't feel like the team's built to win or being built in that direction to win. So they try and find other teams. And then there's, like I said, the playing time. Not everybody on Alabama's team gets playing time. Not everybody on Georgia's team gets playing time. Not everybody on Michigan, Ohio State, OU, Texas, all these big teams, not everybody gets playing time. And so when they're not getting that playing time, then they go find these other schools that are needing players too. The Iowa States, the Kansas, the TCU's, the smaller schools that are still in Power Five, and just to get the playing time so they can get the exposure so they can get to the next level. That don't work for everybody though. Sometimes being a second string in Alabama or OU or Michigan or Ohio State or Texas, being second string for a year or two helps you get mature as a player, helps you learn and know your position more, and then the next year or two you really blossom into that 4 or 5 star athlete you was, and it shows for a big time team, which will also help you uh, in in the draft. But the next guy I want to talk about is a coach that I guess you say I have a love hate relationship for, and that's Lincoln Riley. I can honestly say I did like the guy when he was here, but I hate him now. I can honestly say that. I can admit it. Hate's a strong word, so I shouldn't say hate. Strongly dislike. I'll just put it that way. And it's mostly because of how he did things. I'm not upset that he left. Actually, I'm happy that he left because now, as a Sooner fan, I look back at it and I see where our team was. Obviously, you can't tell that after 1 year, but where our team is going, it is that we're heading in the right direction now. We were not getting better as with him here. We were actually degressing every single year. Even our recruiting classes were not getting better. They were getting worse and worse. I know we brought in Caleb Williams. I know we brought in Spencer Rattler, but that's offensive players. Our defensive were, we've had some good players, but our classes were not good. And I'm also glad he took that Grinch guy with him because that dude don't know how to tackle nothing. All he knows how to do is try and create turnovers. So I'm glad he's gone, and that showed also in that Tulane game the other night. But back to my point though, Lincoln is changing the game. He's changing it with his recruiting wise, um, mostly on the offensive side, whereas Dion's trying to get both sides of the ball. Um, Lincoln is mostly offensive minded, so he goes after the top recruits every year, whether they be, uh, in high school or the transfer portal. He doesn't get really too many key players on junior college level, but he does change the game on how he recruits. He also changes the game on his offensive schemes. He's probably some people say he's a quarterback guru. I don't know about that. He had definitely has had some great quarterbacks, from Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and now Caleb Williams, even Spencer Rattler. Uh, but so if you think about all the quarterbacks he's had since he's been a head coach, and three of them are currently in the NFL, the other two are going to be in the NFL. So he's had every quarterback he's had has been an NFL caliber or an NFL caliber player. But I don't know. I wouldn't call him a guru. He's just bringing, like I say, he recruits the best players. To me, to be a guru, you have to take somebody that's an average quarterback and make them great. That's what a guru to me would be. Um, he does got a good eye for talent. Well, I wouldn't agree with that, Victor. I wouldn't agree with not being able to read defenses. Um, I think Jalen Hurts reads defense. The least what people think is the least talented of them is probably the best one in the NFL, and that's Jalen Hurts. Okay, um, Jalen Hurts, I think, does a great job reading defenses. So, the other two are okay. They're not great, but they're okay. But reading defenses in NFL is different than reading different defenses in college. Sometimes these kids, they their ability has been so way above everybody else they played against that they just think that they can do whatever. And I think that happened with Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. Jalen Hurts' ability was not always way better than everybody else. Remember, he had to fight a little bit. He had to fight for his position just because people didn't give him enough credit. So I think he knows what it takes to do the film study, the weight room, the 100 extra passes every day after practice, that sort of thing is what made him so far is what made him stand out way above Kyler and Baker. But back to Lincoln. Lincoln, his, they say if you ever look at him, he's got one small piece of paper. They say he has about 5 plays on it, and then they're able just basically reading the defenses is what between the quarterback and the receivers, they're able to decide on which plays that is ran off of that. Whereas you look at any other coach and they'll have this big old laminated piece of, play calling plays on it, probably 100 plays on it. Lincoln's got one piece of paper with 5 on it. And that's so I'm not saying he's going to change the game to where everybody's going to go to 5 plays because it's so complex also that not everybody's going to do it. They're going to stick with what they got. But he has changed it on the types of offense that is ran. And the last guy I want to talk about is really he's a guy that is probably not going to be in the College Football Hall of Fame because he didn't have enough wins to get there, but he should be because on how he's affected the game over the last 20 years and plus years. It's going to keep going. And that's uh the the late great coach Mike Leach. He changed, in 19 actually, just so you a little bit of background on him, I did some research on him. So he actually started coaching in 1988, and believe it or not, he actually never played college football. He played high school football and was, I believe, a backup linebacker or something like that. He wasn't even a starter. He went to college and became to get a and he got a law degree. So he was a lawyer. I'm not really sure exactly how he got into coaching because it just says his first job was an assistant coach at Cal Poly. And then he actually went from Cal Poly over to Finland, of all places, and was an assistant coach over there. Then he came back and he met up with I can't think of the coach's name right now, but um, he met up with a coach and he was his assistant coach for like 10 years. And in 1997, they was at Kentucky. From 97 to 99, he was at Kentucky. And then OU hired a guy by the name of Bob Stoops. You probably heard of him. And Bob's story's always been that the first coach he wanted to hire was Mike Leach, because Bob was a defensive coordinator at Florida, and he said the only offense he ever had trouble trying to stop was Kentucky's, which is where Mike Leach was at. So he had to go get him to be on his staff. And of course, he got him over to OU, and Mike Leach was at OU for 1 year, input the system there at OU, and then he left and became the head coach at Texas Tech. And that's where his head coaching days started. He was at Texas Tech for a long time. He went from there to Washington State, and then from Washington State to Mississippi State. And then unfortunately, a few weeks ago, he passed away from a massive heart attack. But the style of offenses that we see in almost every program ran across the country is originated from Mike Leach. His air raid offense is where this all started. Now, not everybody runs it the same way. Um, some people, Mike wanted to throw it 50 to 60 times a game. Some people wanted more balance where they run it 30 and pass it 30. But the spread them out and the throwing, because throwing the ball, more than 20 times a game, that all came from Mike. If you remember back before, really before 97, football was run dominated. We didn't, I mean, you threw the ball maybe 10, 15 times a game. And that was, some teams like, back then OU maybe run it, 50 times a game. We ran the wishbone and variations of it from, now in 97, we had a different coach than old Barry Switzer, but still, we still kind of ran the ball a lot more than we passed the ball. And, so Mike Leach, he changed the game. He, you know, with the air raid stuff, and you know, if you just look at the coaching tree, that you know, not just coaching, but you know, players that either played for him or was an assistant. Excuse me. And I was trying to find something real quick. It's not coming up. So, but yeah, just to name a few coaches right now that have either played or coached under Mike Leach. You've got Dave Aranda of Baylor. You've got I'm forgetting some of these names. Well, Lincoln Riley. He was a player at Texas Tech under Mike Leach. You've got Cliff Kingsbury, who at one time was the Texas Tech head coach, and now he's obviously the Arizona Cardinals head coach. You've got David Holgram, that his name, at Houston. He was a player. You've got West Virginia's coach. He was a player under him also. Neil's his name. And then of course you've got Tennessee's head coach and Josh Heupel, who was the head. You guys still there? All right. Sorry about that. Had a little breakup. But yeah, so Mike Leach, he's had coaches either coach or play under him, as in Dave Aranda at Baylor. You had David Hogerson at Houston. You got Lincoln Riley, USC. You got Cliff Kingsbury, was at Texas Tech and then became the head coach at the Arizona Cardinals. All of those guys played under him at Texas Tech. You've got Josh Heupel, who was the quarterback at OU, Mike Leach's first year at OU, or only year at OU. And there's more. Neil at West Virginia. He was a coach at Texas Tech also. I'm sorry, he was a player at Texas Tech under Mike Leach. So all of these guys either played for, and like I said, there's more. There's more than that. Is coached under him, played for him, and went on to become these head coaches. I'm not talking, and that's just the head coaches. There's some offensive coordinators out there. So there's a ton of coaches that he has his footprint on and has developed and inspired all across college football and even NFL. So I think what he has done changed the game completely. Not saying it was bad football before, because obviously I loved it before when it was just wishbone, you know. So and I don't know if you guys watched the Army Navy game today, or not today, but this year. But which, by the way, Army represented and won. Um, so for the third year in a row, and they the Army and Navy and Air Force really have been this option team for really the last 20 years. When everybody else went to throwing the ball around, they still just ran the ball. Really, sometimes they wouldn't even throw it at all in games. There's been games they didn't throw the ball at all. They just ran every play. But this year, I watched the Army Navy game, and Army mostly they passed it because they couldn't run the ball at all. They didn't have a choice. But Navy even did some. Usually they would still, when we're talking about them passing the ball, they still ran their same run formation. It was just a play action pass. Navy actually spread receivers out, put the quarterback in a shotgun, and ran some spread offense a little bit. Now, not as much as everybody else does it, but they did do it, about 4 or 5 times in the game. So even your armed force teams that don't really throw the ball a lot are still are trying, or not really trying, but are slowly, very, very slowly, are pushing towards that way also, along with everybody else in college football. So definitely, Coach Mike Leach changed the game for good. We all like those 50 to 48 ball games, 51 to 48 ball games that we see in college football playoffs. So where no defense is played, that's what we love. Um, we just like a really good solid hit every now and then, and we're happy with that. So, anyways, so that's my thoughts on the college football coaches that have changed the game. That's not saying that's the only great coaches in college football. There's a ton of great coaches in college football. Obviously Nick Saban being one of them. And so uh, I just wanted to give my thoughts on the you know the the impact that these three coaches have had on the game of football, on the future of football. I think we're in great hands, especially with two of those three are still coaching. But there's the way that the game is going. I like it. I like it a lot. Um, you know, we'll just see how things go. If you have any topics you'd like for me to discuss, my email is scrolling there at the bottom. Just send me an email, or if you have my contact information, you can reach out to me and contact me, and I'll definitely look into it. I owe Vic, I owe you. I still want to talk about that. Matter of fact, I will talk about that um, Saturday. I'm planning on doing another show on Saturday, so I'll do that for you on Saturday, Vic. Um, if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe below. Share this video to your friends, your family, anybody you know that enjoys football. And I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching this. And we'll see you next time. God bless.